Hey, Mom, happy Mother's Day in advance.
Well, thank you, Randy. Nice to hear from you.
Yeah, it's great to hear from you too. So, Mom, you're such a good sport. I thought I'd reach out to you today because, as you know, my show broadcasts on Fridays. And this Friday, today, is only 2 days away from Mother's Day 2021. So I thought, what better way to program my program today than celebrate Mother's Day? And what better way to celebrate Mother's Day than talk with my mom? Are you up for
Oh,
that?
I sure am. And aren't you sweet?
Well, I've got a sweet mom. That makes being sweet really super easy. So here's another idea. I thought that it would be fun to not only reminisce and of course enjoy one another's company today, but also use today's show as sort of a present to all those other moms who might be listening out there right now live on Kootenai Co-op Radio, or perhaps subsequently when this show is out there as a podcast. And also for all of those kids who haven't been able to get together physically with their moms over this past year of COVID. So, does that sound like a plan to you?
It certainly does. And happy Mother's Day to all of the people that I know and love.
Okay, fantastic. So let's get right down to it. I thought it would be fun to start out by going all the way back, way before you were a mom, to the point when you were, well, in fact, born. Now, I suspect that you've got enough mileage on the old life odometer by now, Mom, to feel totally comfortable sharing with us the year you were born. Am I right?
You're perfectly right.
Okay,
December
so when was it?
22nd, 1928, and I'm 92 years old.
Wow. Okay. So we've got a lot of ground to cover. And just to give our listeners a sense, our younger listeners in particular, a sense of that span of time when you were born on a farm in rural Kansas, just outside Smith Center, the geographical center of the contiguous 48 states, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I assume that the only means of communications and information that you had at the time was a telephone, probably a party line, and the radio. Is that right?
That's right. That's right.
And in fact, I mean, I'm old enough to remember in my earliest childhood days, that's pretty much what, well, that is what we still had too, right? A telephone and the radio.
You're right. That's right. And
So
that's how we got our news. We knew the newscasters that we liked, and everybody else had to clear the room and be quiet while he was talking.
yeah, right, exactly. Okay, so you've lived through, you were born during at the sort of the early days of the Great Depression. You were, I'm assuming, an impressionable teenager when Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected the first time and then proceeded to launch the New Deal. You've lived through the Second World War, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. You've seen God knows how many presidents come and go. You started out in a rural farm with a radio and a television, and now we're talking to one another over an unimaginable technology, even 10 or 15 years ago, right? I mean, you've seen a lot in these 92 years.
Yes, it almost makes my brain tired to think of it. It's absolutely amazing, and I wish I knew how to use it all. But well, Randy.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a question for you, Mom. There's a lot of talk now in the United States about the relatively new president, Joe Biden, and some of his ambitious programs that are costing or are projected to cost trillions of dollars. And I've seen some references to some of these programs harking back to, in fact, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, and the New Deal. That brings me to a question. Who is your favorite all-time US president and why?
Franklin Roosevelt, because he made he made people love their country and be proud of their country and be proud of the president that we had. And I can remember growing up, even though I wasn't even a teenager yet, but you grow up fast during a war like the Second World War. And I remember thinking, oh, what would happen to our country and to us if something happened to Franklin Roosevelt? He was well loved and respected.
Well, I know that's the case. I'm harking to a song written by a guy named Jesse Winchester, an American who came to Canada during the Vietnam War, and he wrote a song called FDR, Poor Man's Friend, that kind of echoes what you're saying right now. But speaking of songs, let's take a little break and let's play a song. You've given me a list of talent and songs that you'd like to hear. So I suggest we start out with a little tune by, well, it's going to feature the Andrews Sisters.
Uh-huh.
It's called, you remember the song that we decided to play?
Uh,
I'm going to remind you, In the Mood.
oh, yes. And your father and I have danced to that many a time.
Oh, I know. So settle back, folks. Here comes the Andrews Sisters with In the Mood, and then we'll be back with Charlotte Morse, My Mom. Happy Mother's Day, everybody.